Now, we talked about specialized cells. The next thing we really need to think about is, how do cells become specialized, right? So let's think about them before they're specialized or they're unspecialized or even undifferentiated. So they're undifferent from each other. They're all the same. This is when we start to think about stem cells. Now, we're going to talk about a few different types of stem cells because they're a little bit different in animals and plants, and even in animals we have a little bit of difference there as well. So let's start thinking about animals. Okay, so in an animal, we have two main types of stem cells that we think about. We think about embryonic stem cells and we think about adult stem cells. Now, embryonic, this is embryo or stem cells that are embryos. When you were first an embryo, before you were ever born, right, all the way back after an egg was fertilized by a sperm, you develop into an embryo. At this stage, all of those cells in there are very plain, the exact same type of cells, because they all need to become every single cell that makes up your entire body, right? They have to eventually turn into your eye, your nose, your arm, your heart, your toe. All of the different cells, all of the different organs inside your body had to come from that original one fertilized cell that splits up until it's about 40 cells. So that has to become everything. So those are the cells we're going to think about being undifferentiated, unspecial, and they become any type of cell that we want. They have limitless potential. I could take an embryonic stem cell and put it in the right environment and turn it into any type of cell that I want. This is great because it lets us develop into who we are, all of the differences that we have throughout our entire body. We have all of that potential there. It's great for medical treatment. We can take embryonic stem cells and we can use them to develop things because we can control what they become just by changing things. Now, right now, if you're sitting here listening to this, I no longer have any embryonic stem cells. You no longer have any embryonic stem cells. Instead, we have adult stem cells. Right? No matter how old you are, once you're no longer an embryo, we have adult stem cells. And what that means is we have stem cells that aren't specialized. They aren't ready for their specific function, but they already have a little bit of specialization. They already kind of know what their job's going to be, right? So we can kind of think about this embryonic stem cells before you ever go to school. You have limitless potential. You can become anything you want to. Okay. Then as you start to go through school and get older and older, you learn a little bit more, you become a little bit more specialized, right? An adult stem cell, it's kind of like someone who has already gone through secondary school, they're getting ready to go to university, still tons of options for them, just not as many as they had before. So adult stem cells have a few things they can become. The most common example we think about is bone marrow. So inside the bone marrow, we have stem cells, and those stem cells have potential. They can become about 8 different cells, right? So they can become blood cells, any of the different types of blood cells, right? They have things that they can differentiate or specialize into, but not as limitless, right? Now, if we're thinking about comparing embryonic and adult stem cells we can take from someone, right? So if I was donating bone marrow, I could be willing to consent and donate some of my bone marrow to be able to be used for something. That's a benefit of thinking about adult stem cells, where embryonic stem cells, we can't get consent for that. If we take those embryonic stem cells, we're taking all of them and we're not able to really leave anything else behind, right? So there are some differences between them. Those aren't the only two, far from it. Brainstorm, think of some other differences between the two, because there are a lot of them. There are a lot of advantages and disadvantages of each of them, and you'll see certain people or groups pushing for one to be better than the other. Okay, so that was animal stem cells. Now let's think about plant stem cells. Plant stem cells are a little bit different in that plant stem cells are called meristems. Meristems, and we find them on the 2 places where we see plants still growing. We say the roots and the shoots is where we find them. So if we were to go into the roots and go to the end of the roots are still growing farther and farther, and we have meristems there, and they're just stem cells that can differentiate into anything we want them to become. Then if we go to the shoots, we go to the ends of the top of the plant or the sides of the plant where it's still growing out, we find meristems there as well. And they're just cells that are differentiating into whatever it is that they want to become. Now in plant stem cells, they're a lot closer to that of embryonic stem cells because they can still become anything they want to. This is why when we think about things like if you take a clipping from a plant and plant it into the ground, it grows into a whole new plant. Because those stem cells, they aren't worried about what they become. They're happy to become a root cell. They're happy to grow into xylem or phloem or any other part of the plant. Doesn't matter to them. They're still undifferentiated. So we have animal stem cells, embryonic, and adult. We have plant stem cells, which we refer to as meristems. Thanks for stopping by, guys, today. I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys learned anything. Please go ahead. Have any questions, please put it in the comments. If you have any comments, put them there. Please subscribe and like the video so that way you can get any more of these updates.